1848 and 1855, Jeannie Johnson sailed across the sea, carrying the victims of Ireland's tragedy to Kilpack from the west coast of Belize. She sailed on her way on April 24 with around 200 starving on board, all in search of a new life away from the homeland, from the homeland. On the eve of the journey, a baby boy was born. He drew his first breath in the eye of a storm. His mother cried out to the heavens above, saying, Jesus and Mary, don't forsake my son. The captain stood onto the deck and he called out to his men, death will chase us to Canada or hell and back again. The Jeannie is no coffin ship, so we'll fill her sails with prayer. This boy will be our figurehead to lead us in God's care. Before she set sail, St. Christopher was pinned to his shawl. He became the lucky charm of the captain and his crew on a ship that never lost a soul. She sailed on her way on April 24 with around 200 starving on board, all in search of a new life away from the homeland, and the family around the shore. Thank you. That was a song about a famine ship. A little less of this in there, and a slight touch on the whistle for me in there, and that's me sorted. Thanks. My name is Patrick Lawler, and I come from Belfast in Northern Ireland, although I live in Wales now, and I write songs about Belfast and its history and stuff. And this next song is about the linen industry in Northern Ireland at the turn of the last century, when women and children worked as slaves in the linen mills. And they died very young from dust, disease, and all sorts of stuff. And it was called the 1911 walkout because they had a big strike. From the green fields of Ulster, most came from the back street slums, all searching for work in the linen industry. There's a call for flax to be spun. The year it was 1910, a time when the mills ruled supreme. The linen lords of Ireland toasted you, found the riches on the backs of the poor and their dreams. The factories were prisons for women and children who slaved on machines every day. Some fell to disease, locked black with the dust. Others died on the floor where they lay. In 1911, a walkout was called by the women who suffered the toil. Come on, all you spinners, you layers and doffers, half-timers, unite one and all. The bosses got angry as the strike took a hold. Conditions were grim, many times they'd been told. They chose to be ignorant, it was better that way for them. The strike, it was broken, the mills went on spinning, the death toll and entries still high. For the women and children who slaved for a living, waited their turn to die. The average age was just 45 for a woman cut down in her prime. To the linen lords of Ireland, its people will remember your part in this terrible crime. To the linen lords of Ireland, people will remember your part in this terrible crime. Thank you. I'm going to sing a song called Thimbleful of Western Wind. It's the very first song I ever wrote, actually, back in 1995. And you can hear the wind in the background there. it's on that thing there. But it's on my Ismay's Dream album. It's a reflective song. It was written in Galway on the Aran Islands. Whatever happened to the life you lead, and to all the clever things you said to me? In every barroom there's money to be spent, and a mirror where you can watch yourself fragment. I'd send my thoughts to you, but I don't know where to begin. So I'll just send to you a thimbleful of the western wind. my lost friends. Is there something I can do or say that will bring you back again? So I'll send you a blue mist stretching over the waves, where a lonely woman drags the flowers on the grave. I've said my thoughts to you, but I don't know where to begin. So I'll just send to you a thimbleful of the western wind. Send you the space, and what might have happened in another time and place. And I'll send you a rhythm that will give you a chance to listen to the music that makes the wild waves dance. I'd send my thoughts to you, but I don't know where to begin. So I'll just send to you a thimbleful of the western wind, and from the harbor where the fishing boats come in, it's there I will send to you a thimbleful of the western wind, the western wind, the western wind. Thank you, folks. Hiding behind that pole there, Sarah, aren't you? We clocked you. This next song, actually, I wrote this song after I wrote a whole album about sort of Titanic-type stories from Belfast. And this was like a cynic's view of 1912 in Belfast at the time. And Belfast had its ranters who stood on street corners, sort of giving out, wondering why people were so happy given the times that they lived in at that particular time. It's a song called Enjoy the Hour. And it's a ranter's view of that particular period in Belfast Irish history. Came from the 32 counties and stood on the Queen's Island side, united in their adoration of Belfast City's pride. Donned in their Sunday best outfits and assuming an air of grandeur, boys watched from windows and rooftops, waving flags as they cheered. Lonely man stands on the corner, he ransacked the village row. We build them grand and we build them strong, but why have we got to be proud? Poverty and disease haunts these streets, and our children are dying young. Neighbors fight over home rule, and some say war will come. When you raise your glass to this waved our goodbyes. Thousands of odds buzzed the air. You can feel the crescendo rise. A marching band strikes up a tune as the crowd sing along. The cobbled streets of the city were paved with dancing and song. The city was stunned in the silence as the news of disaster went round. Wives and families of the Guarantee boys, they gathered on each side of town. The lonely man stands on his corner, his head bowed and clasped in his hands, while the newspapers tell us the story of how the pride of Belfast went down. When you raise your glass to the shipyard, the emblem of Ulster's bar, and you shiver out to sea and it hides tragedy. Is this really our finest star? Is this really our finest star? Is this really our finest star? Thank you. I'm just getting over a lurgy. That looks nice. I'm going to take you right down again now. I'm going to do a nice little ballad. I wrote this many years ago, actually, and it's a true story of a man who worked and sailed on that big ship that sailed from Belfast. And on the day the ship sailed, he gave his two sons a couple of copper coins, 2 pennies. He was a widower. His wife had died of consumption a few weeks previous. Disease was rife. Belfast had 3 major industries in those days. It had shipbuilding, linen, and poverty on a grand scale. Anyway, this song's written from the perspective of the kid growing up and finding the coins later on in life. Searching through a drawer one day, I found a small brown box. It contained 2 copper coins. They didn't seem a lot, but the date on them was 1912. That stirred my memories of my father's final journey on the North Atlantic Sea. I watched with many thousands as the ship left Belfast long. Unsinkable, I heard men say she's as great as the Albert Clock. I clutched the coins tightly as he put them in my hand. And the last thing that he said to me was save them till I return. 2 pennies for your love, 2 pennies for love. Keep them safe till I return. For you, for I'm sailing away bound for America on this ship. I was just a boy of 4 on that April day. My mother passed away weeks ago. Now my father must go away to search for work in America and to find for us a home For me and my brother Tommy, it's life for us alone. Years go on and tears run dry, my memories are still fresh. This town of heroes on that ship, its people know them best. At a gathering for our lost ones, I cry most bitterly, and I clutch the copper penny that Daddy gave to me. 2 pennies for your love, 2 pennies for luck. Keep them safe till I return for you, for I'm sailing away bound for America on a ship called Titanic. Thank you, folks. It's not all doom and gloom, you know, I'll tell you. They were partying at the time as well. And this next particular set of songs and tunes is typical of what you would have heard during that period. It's a tune set with a nice old Belfast street song mixed in the middle. I'm sure most of you will know the song. Mad party music. Back to the serious stuff now. I thought you'd have been up dancing in the aisle there. You were thinking about it. Oh well. It's a nice, funny old gig, this, isn't it? At 6 o'clock in the evening. We played here last week at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That was quite strange as well, but nice venue. Actually, when I was writing that whole Titanic story piece from Belfast, I found a story from Cork about a man called Jerome Burke, and on the day the ship sailed, the last place it sailed from, actually from Sherwood, but it went to Cork as well, and his mother gave him a little bottle of holy water, and a couple of years after the disaster, a very similar bottle turned up in Cork Harbour with a message in it saying, "Goodbye to all the Burkes from Glanmire." And I thought, that's interesting. But they believe it in Cork, and whether the story's true or not, I have no idea. But there certainly was a Jerome Burke on the passenger list. And they got a museum in Cork, and the original bottle with the message is there. So maybe the story is true. Some people said it's not, but poetic license is required, isn't it? But anyway, I just made the song up then based on Jerome Burke's story. He was a youngster. He was going to Pennsylvania actually to see his two sisters that lived there. They went on an earlier crossing. In the summer of 1915, a small bottle washed up on the sand, on the shoreline near Dunkettle, County Cork, thrown to the sea by a young man. The message inside was a farewell to the family who mourned the lost son. Given up by the tide after 3,000 miles, they can now lay to rest their lost one. Goodbye to all from Titanic, the last words of Jerome Burke, with a bottle of blessed water clutched in his hands and the comfort of faith in his heart. He followed the White Star to America when he boarded that April in Cork, with an adieu to his mother and father, saying, "I'm on my way to New York." As the ship pulled away from the harbour, he looked on the land left behind. His last view of Ireland was gone rock. A great sadness came into his mind. Goodbye to all from Titanic, the last words of Jerome Burke, with a bottle of blessed water clutched in his hands and the comfort of faith in his heart. Goodbye to the Burkes of Glanmire, in the arms of Jesus I'll lay. As the liner gave up to the ocean, the bottle he threw to the waves, it made its way back to the homeland, to be found now a treasure to save. Goodbye to all from Titanic, the last words of Jerome Burke, with a bottle of blessed water clutched in his hands and the comfort of faith in his heart. Goodbye to all from Titanic, the last words of Jerome Burke, with a bottle of blessed water clutched in his hands and the comfort of faith in his heart. And the comfort of faith in his heart. Thank you. Actually, you can't really complete that story without this guy, Bruce Ismay. If anyone ever seen that movie, he was the last man off the ship, and of course he was vilified as a coward in the press because his family owned the White Star Line. But there's more to the story than just him being a coward. And I just thought, well, let's give him the last word. He's surveying the landscape after the tragedy from Ireland. He went through all the inquiries and stuff. And he died in the 1930s of a stroke. But anyway, this is his take on it all. And it's one of those questions, what would you do if you were in his position? The ship's going down, the last lifeboat's about to leave. So he just leaped on and he saved himself. Yeah, he was tortured by the American press afterwards. But a lot of stuff's unknown about Ismay. He gave all his wealth and stuff to Seamen's merchant shipping funds and stuff like that to help people who were lost at sea, because most of the people that died on the Titanic, the families weren't compensated in the 50s and stuff like that, and the officers and the crew had to pay for their uniforms that were lost. So it was quite an atrocious time. Anyway, this is Ismay's Dream, the title of the album. Dear God, what have I done? Am I the only one to carry the burden of this hope, this expectation? I chanced my hand to see a better life for me, and show the world what could be done by this proud nation. Now the winter's getting colder now, I'm cursed with getting older. I close my eyes, I can still see fading lights and hear the screams. Perhaps these thoughts will fade with time. They occupy my waking mind. I'm to live the nightmare that was born out of my dream. In Belfast the plans were laid for the biggest liners ever made, forging a legacy handed down to me from old. It was my father's wish to see the White Star Line rule the sea, by placing inspiration on the shoulders of the past. Now the winter's getting colder now, I'm cursed with getting older. I close my eyes, I can still see fading lights and hear the screams. Perhaps these thoughts will fade with time. They occupy my waking mind. I'm to live the nightmare that was born out of my dreams. In the sanctuary I found Costello Lodge in Galway. I could lay these ghosts to rest and leave the past behind, but the press would not let that be. They mocked and made a card of me. Judge me not by one action, be it right or be it wrong. Now the winter's getting colder now, I'm cursed with getting older. I close my eyes, I can still see fading lights and hear the screams. Perhaps these thoughts will fade with time. They occupy my waking mind. I'm to live the nightmare that was born out of my dreams. Thank you, folks. That's and now for something completely different. This song I haven't actually recorded yet. It's a song that's an anti-war song, actually. It's probably more relevant now than what it ever was. But it's about children getting caught up in conflict, and I just think if you expose children to conflict all the time, you're never going to really get rid of it, are you? You're just setting it up for the next generation. And it's juxtaposition where young recruits get into the army and then getting sent off to foreign places where nobody actually wants them there, and they wonder why they're there themselves. Anyway, it's called Watch the Bullets Fly, and it's born out of growing up in Belfast. I remember watching the bullets go through the windows sometimes of the house we lived in during gun battles and stuff, so it's quite a scary prospect, but anyway, it's something that needs to be aired. There's a poster on the wall somewhere, a temptation for the young. The recruited sergeant stands close by. He knows it won't be long before they kill to sign away their future for a gun. And as the sun goes down, it's then his work is done. While alone with the shadows of night, children huddle by to pray that they will survive as they watch the bullets fly. As they watch the bullets fly, there's a gunman on the corner in a military uniform. He's in a foreign country. Locals look at him with scorn. They say he's no right to be here. It's not his land to take. So go back to your own country before it's too late. But it's not my fault I'm sent here. That's a politician's choice. I'm here to free your country so you can have your voice. Soldier, for you made the choice your own by joining your state's armies. You're dispatched away from home, while alone with the shadows of night. Children huddle by to pray that they will survive as they watch the bullets fly. As they watch the bullets fly. As they silently cry. fly. Thank you, folks. Okay. We got 15 minutes left or so, folks. I'm going to do another song from one stark reality to another. This is a sort of, is any John Milton fans? Milton the poet. Paradise Lost and Regained. I went back to Belfast a couple of years ago. My mother died over there, and while I was over, I sort of took a journey around the place just to see how things had moved on from the troubles and stuff. And when I came back to Wales, I started writing this song. It took me about 6 months, a friend and I, to put it all together. And we tried to juxtaposition John Milton's poem, Paradise Lost, and put it into a Belfast sort of context. So it's all about the vernacular of Belfast and how the linen mills have closed down and the courts are closed and there's visible signs of peace. So it's actually like a man's journey for peace. Anyway, I'm gonna go through that. It's called You in His Eyes. Through a crack in a window that's shrouded and torn, the light hesitates like another false dawn. The room fills with silence I once knew before, finding me in my dreams, losing you at my door. The streets dark with bloodshed, I'm searching again. The barricades have all gone, but the barriers remain till I see model schoolboys helping holy girls cross crumbling road where so many childhoods were lost. It's been many lifetimes, the graves keep the score of those led to unrest in the good old cause. Was order order, disorder won? Do they reign in hell or serve in heaven? I see your name on the wall, or was it the chill? Hear your voice as I swing by the old courthouse rail. And Millie looks on, quiet and still, like the bomb she once made, as I turn to Shine Hill. The yellow brick road casts its gates open wide. Lost in my thoughts, I fall in alongside a young boy playing war as he leads out his men. Not seeing the gates are now closing again. Of a boy left behind, the bars of his cage and the walls in his mind, to a life that I stole instead of my own. and the price I must pay for a child left alone. There's no place to hide and nowhere to run, for the man of unrest and the boy with his gun. He held out his arms and I knelt by his side, wiped the tears from his face and saw you in his eyes. Now the scars in the churchyard are healing once more, not wounds of revenge, but still green like before. The mind is its own place, I will be done to make a heaven of hell, or a hell of heaven. Thank you, folks. It has got that weird ending. We're going to liven things up a little bit with a nice set of jigs for you to do a dance to if you fancy it. Thank you. Party time there, but it's a bit early in the night, isn't it? Sorry, folks. I'm just going to introduce you to the band. This is Sel Edwards. He's a Cardiff boy. And Jill O'Shea from Brennaman. Greg Stewart from Scotland originally, but he lives up in Oxford now. And I live down West Wales. So. And we sometimes gig with a bass player as well. We've got a scaled down lineup. We're off to Ireland in a month or two time to showcase for a few festivals over there. So this is the lineup that's getting over. So wish you luck. And I'm going to wrap things up with a song called 62 Seconds. It wraps this whole story up in a way because 100 years ago in Belfast they pinned their economic hopes on that big ship that sailed out to sea. And 100 years later they're doing exactly the same, which is fine, but they were wearing t-shirts over there a couple of years back with a big slogan on the back said, "She was all right when she left here, it wasn't our fault," and all this stuff. So, anyway, this is dedicated to the shipyard workers. I hope you've all had a good time, those of you that hung around. And we have got CDs if you're interested. Anyway, it's about the shipyard workers, and it took 62 seconds for Titanic to literally slip into Belfast Lock to be fitted out to sea. And 90 years before Belfast finally got round to saying, "Yep, we built her, she was built here," but of course Belfast had other things on its mind, so maybe that's why it took a long time. Country, part 11 stories high, rising up like an angel over the Belfast city sky. 24,000 tons of steel the band she had to wear, seducing those by the water's edge who couldn't help but stare. 62 seconds was all it took for her to leave. 62 seconds and she was gone. Rich and poor watched stripped in their finery, but it took her 90 years to return. 90 years to return. The Claxon summons workers for a shift to begin, a day filled with hard labor and the shipyard din. Smoke billows from chimneys, blares an eerie sunrise. Her sinners take their turn, admiration in their eyes. She looks Ben Madigan in the eyes as he gazed down from Cave Hill, then tipped the wink at Albert's clock, giving him a mighty thrill. A work of art, her stature rose above them all. The debutante had come of age, and she stood tall. She stood tall. Sound of cheering men who'd spent 3 years crafting her every curve. With elegance and grace she slipped into the sunlight, casting a shadow as she sounded her last farewell. 62 seconds was all it took for her to leave. 62 seconds and she was gone. Rich and poor watched drink in their finery, but it took her. But it took her 90 years to return. 90 years to return. If you read the Times, 90 years to return. Thank you, folks. Thank you very much. We'll maybe see you another time. Thank you. Thanks to Heswin for sorting out the sound there.